Yeah. Welcome to the real, unfiltered, unfiltered story. Yeah, this is me. No mask, no filter, just honesty. Real life, real pain, real victory. Unfiltered stories. Come ride with me. I don't sugarcoat it, I just tell the truth. Every scar, every lesson, every hidden proof. Had to lose, had to fall, just to rise again. Now I speak from a place where I've already been. See the world try to shake me, break me down, but I found my voice when I lost that sound. Now I walk in purpose, I move in light, and I say what I feel, don't dim my sight. This ain't surface, it's that deep, this that truth most people keep. What I lived, I now release, so somebody else can breathe. Unfiltered stories. Yeah, this is me. No mask, no filter, just honesty. Real life, real pain, real victory. Unfiltered stories. Come ride with me. This is where truth lives. This is where healing begins. This is Unfiltered Stories with Dr. K. Unfiltered, no filter. It's true.
Blessings, everybody. As I like to say, peace, love, light, and blessings. And this is Dr. K. And this is the actual first episode of Unfiltered Stories from Dr. K. And so I just want to explain it a little bit before I bring myself upon the camera just to start talking about the first episode, okay? And so the first episode is No More Potential, Only Covenant. And I had to start here first before I really start to do a deep dive into my life. This podcast here, it's just not for me to tell about my life and the struggles, the hurt, heartache, pain, and trauma that I had to go through, but this is a community for Remnant and Chosen, community for individuals that have gone through so many life's trials and tribulations, that has gone through so much. And some of us understand it, some of us still don't understand it, like we're still trying to get the depths of like why was I born into generational bondages and cycles and things. Why did my life continue to appear as though it was in shambles? And so I tell people that when you have stories, such as myself and other Remnant and Chosen, more than likely you're called just like us. Many are called and few are chosen. And so on that note, that is the enemy's tactic to try to keep you down and take you out. But if you're able to become spiritually awakened in the Trinity, the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, then you will understand that this is not a natural battle that we're fighting. This is a spiritual battle. And so many of the times, many of us have tried to fight things from a natural standpoint and have been defeated. But this is a spiritual battle. So we have to understand the spiritual things, the realms and dimensions, that relationship as I call it. And so, of course, just a little bit about me. Of course, I'm Dr. K, doctor by divinity. Okay. I am a nurse practitioner. And, I've been going through it ever since I could remember. As a young child, I could remember at the age of 2 and 3 certain things, and could never understand why I went through so much. But I could remember at the age of 5 standing by, a little bit far from my mother's bed, but like close. And I was like, Mom, I said, I'm special. I said, Mom, I said, I know that I'm going to help a lot of people. But at the time, I thought that I was just going to be like a humanitarian, not knowing that I was chosen before I was even in my mother's womb. And then understanding my family line, I wasn't the only one chosen, but I am the one who really took on the chosen state and have been breaking cycles ever since I finally answered my call. Because you best to believe I had to go through a lot in life, a lot of hurt, heartache, and pain, ostracization from family still to this day. I love my family, but they look at me in a certain way. They look at my circumstances of what I've been through instead of who I am to God and why I went through the things that I went through. Going through it with family, going through it with people that I thought were friends, relationships with men never worked out. I don't care. It just always worked out. I always ended up in some type of abusive, manipulative, controlling type relationship with men. Um, just even business partners, things like that. So it's been a lot. And you guys will, like I said, I'll start to go in depth as the episodes go along. But again, so I want to thank each and every single person who's going to listen to this, subscribe, support, and journey with me as I launched this podcast. Of course, this podcast is going to be on YouTube. So I need you to subscribe to YouTube, Unfiltered Stories from Dr. K. Also, Spotify. I've already put little blippets on Spotify. Okay, so I need you guys to support this. Because again, this is just not about my testimony. Okay, you'll hear stories from other individuals too. I'm going to bring other people up and I'm going to host them and let them tell their story. We're going to do deep dives into like things that I've gone through, others, battles, victories, setbacks, disappointments, heartbreaks, breakthroughs that have shaped who we are today. But again, this podcast is much bigger than me. This is something that the Father called me to do. It's for the remnant, it's for the chosen, it's for us to understand. So this podcast is for everybody, okay? Not just remnant and chosen. I want to bring it outside of a box because many of us have gone through things, okay? Many of us have survived things that should have broken us, that should have taken us out. For those who have endured rejection, abandonment, betrayal, trauma, loss, disappointment, and seasons of isolation, for those who question God, for those who question themselves, for those who wonder why life has seemed harder than it appears for everyone else, for those who have asked, why am I going through this? Many of us, like I said, we're born into cycles, generational cycles, pattern, bondages, trauma, mindsets. I say load of our mindsets, family dysfunction, religious traditions. And many of us spent years trying to understand why certain battles seem to follow us because I couldn't understand it. Okay. And even right now, as I'm speaking to you guys, I have been going through battles too, but this was a season to where I had to look at myself to see what was I still doing cycle wise, because even as we get older and we start to recognize things, okay, that's our responsibility, okay, to let the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit in to help us to break those things. And so I have been going through a year battle where I lost everything once again, to where I had to go down to nothing, okay? To where I had to put myself and my youngest child in a shelter, not just once, but twice. And many people who don't understand the spiritual concepts of things will be like, okay, well, why did that happen? You're a nurse practitioner. See, people like to look at things from a natural standpoint. And yes, I have businesses and everything, but when certain things come and hit you, when that warfare hits you, it does not matter what you got. It does not, because all of those things can be taken away at the drop of a hat. And so that is why you have to understand what it is and let the processing go through so those things can be broken and you don't have to go back down that road again. Many of us have been around the mountain. It's a scripture in the Bible that says, and I'm paraphrasing, but many of us have gone around that mountain too long. It's time to conquer the mountain. And so, yes, so many of us spent years battling things, and now it's time to come out of it. And that's what this podcast is for people to understand what it is and to move out of the things that have continued to keep them down. It just seems like for many of us, as soon as we finally see that light, though we're the light, but we start to see light in areas of our lives, then all of a sudden we get taken back down into that Joseph pit. But I tell you today, this is a season, a time, and a place, according to Ecclesiastes 3, where God is showing us it's time to come out now. So with many of us, like I said, this is spiritual reality behind what we experience. This is not natural. So the battles may show up in relationships, finances, careers, ministry, business, health, family, but often the root is deeper than what we can see with our natural eyes. So this podcast exists to help people see differently from the eyes of God, to heal people, to grow people, to help people understand who they are and whose they are. Throughout this journey, I will bring, like I said, guests into this platform, people who have overcome, people who are overcoming, people who have stories that need to be heard. We will be honest. Okay, this is honest. This is a raw, unfiltered podcast. So we're going to bring out some things that the church has never brought out. Okay? Unfiltered conversations, not from a place of religion, but from a place of relationship. Y'all know, anybody who has followed my journey throughout in ministry, and now I am Kingdom Global Initiative, know that I stress relationship at all times. God is interested in relationship. The Trinity, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. He's not looking for perfection. He's looking for surrender, and through relationships comes healing. Through relationships comes identity. Through relationship comes purpose. And that brings me to this episode today. Because one of the greatest lessons I have learned throughout my life is this: potential is not covenant. I used to see potential everywhere, in friendships and ministry connections and business partners, and especially in relationships. I could see who people could become. I could see their gifts. I could see their purpose. I could see their future. And because I could see it, I often stayed connected longer than I should have. I poured into people. I built people. I encouraged people. I carried people because I believed that if I loved them enough, supported them enough, or invested enough spiritually and financially, eventually everything will work out. But let me tell y'all, God had to teach me difficult lessons. Potential and covenant are not the same. Just because someone has potential does not mean they are assigned to your life. Just because someone is gifted does not mean they are aligned. Just because someone has purpose does not mean they are a part of your purpose. And many of us stay stuck because we're trying to build relationships based on potential instead of covenant. We are attached to what could be rather than discerning what God has actually ordained. The word asks a powerful question in Amos 3:3. Can two walk together unless they agree? And agreement is deeper than chemistry. Agreement is deeper than attraction. Agreement is deeper than shared interests. Agreement involves alignment. Agreement involves purpose. Agreement involves direction. Agreement involves fruit. One of the greatest prayers you can pray is, Father, show me who is covenant and who is simply potential, because not every person is meant to stay. Some people are seasonal, some are lessons, some are assignments, some are preparation, and some are covenant. So in this season, I have learned to stop chasing potential. I have learned to stop trying to rescue people. I have learned to stop forcing what God never ordained. And I learned to trust God's discernment more than my own emotions. So if you're listening today, I want to encourage you. Ask God to reveal every relationship, friendship, partnership, and connection through his eyes, not through loneliness, not through fear, not through trauma, not through wishful thinking, but through truth. Because when God reveals the truth of a thing, it becomes easier to release what no longer belongs in your life. And let me tell you, when God shows you, don't hold on to that. Do not. Do not hold on to that. Let it go. Because when we don't let it go, God will allow for something not too good to happen. So you don't have no choice but to let it go. And believe me, I had to experience that. And sometimes the greatest act of love is letting go of what was never covenant. This is Unfiltered Stories from Dr. K. Real stories, raw truth, kingdom impact. It's kingdom impact. And that's what God wants. This is a kingdom thing. This is a kingdom thing, you guys. This is a kingdom thing. And so I'm going to turn on my camera now so you guys can see me. All right. And I do have like little blipping notes because many people know me. I can become very long-winded. So welcome to Unfiltered Stories from Dr. K. I'm Dr. K. All right. So now let's go deeper. So like I said, no more potential, only covenant. And so I say this and I want to go deeper with this. And so I got three little cues here. And I am gonna read off of these cues, but as I'm led to speak on things pertaining to my life, then I will speak on those things. But this episode is more so of a teaching episode because many of us got to let go of some things. Many of us have to acknowledge that a lot of times it's not people that are doing us wrong. We are allowing people to do us wrong because we continue to not set boundaries. We continue to not love ourselves enough because truth be told, when you continue to connect to certain things and it ends up causing you hurt, heartache, pain, trauma, it is because there's still something within you. And I had to learn this. It's still something within you that is unhealed and broken. And it could simply be generational. It could be generational. And I had to learn this like last year, 2025, when I started to go through things once more again, after finally starting to settle out, and that's what'll happen. You will finally start to settle out in certain areas of your life, but then all of a sudden you got this big collision that comes. And why does that collision come? Because God can't move you to total fulfillment in certain areas of your life until those things are addressed. Okay. And so I started to meet resistance in many areas of my life, financial, okay, and that is an attack of the enemy for me because everything that I do, I should not have and still be going through financially, but it was prophesied, to myself and many others that we would be multimillionaires because of what God has called us to do. So even in that, though I know I did not cause that, I still had to look at things from a different way to, go into the spirit because, they called me a sniper in the spirit. I'm a sniper. So I know how to get in the presence of the Trinity and let him show me what it is and start to remove those things. But at the time, things caught me all at once because here I am connected to people still that I shouldn't have been connected to. Okay, certain women in my life, every time I will open my mouth, okay, because see, this is raw truth. Every time I will open my mouth, and my mother started saying this too. My mother was like, daughter, she was like, you talk too much sometimes to some of the people that are within your circle. She was like, though, some of them are, they're of God, but you really start to see that even the people that are chosen still often carry spirits of jealousy and enviousness. And because it's not happening for them at that moment, they don't want it to happen for you. So here I am surrounded around certain people, and God started to reveal. He was like, the reason why, and because I started going through things in January 2025, but it didn't get bad until May. Like I'm not a person that stays sick. I got sick, not once but twice, in and out of work. Car started to mess up. Um, going through things. I, finally thought that I had met the man, okay, of my life. And when I'm telling you that went so south to it, that was a no. Okay. But this again, like I said, has always happened in my life. So when I started to evaluate everything, I'm like, okay, first of all, God is wanting me to really clear up things like finality. And for many of you guys, certain things had to happen because many of you are going through things similar as I'm going through. And God was like, it has to be a finality of this, a finalization of this. You got to really see what it is because I cannot bring you into certain things. And amongst your true tribe, I cannot release the wealth and the riches. I cannot release the kingdom. I cannot release those things until you let go of certain things. Let go of certain people. Let go like of certain things within you because I found that because of what I've been through with men, there was trauma within me. Like every time I would get into a relationship and I started to see things, then I would, I would call my mom and I'm like, Mom, I'm seeing A, B, and C. And I'm like, I've already gone through this, okay? But it was like trauma resurfacing from past relationships. So it was unhealed things within me still, okay, that I was seeing in these relationships. But truth be told, God was also allowing me to see it because I wasn't supposed to be with that individual in the first place. And so that's why I said no more potential, only covenant, because we will tend, okay, to connect to people because we see the potential within them, but not ask God, okay, am I seeing this potential is because you are assigning me to it? Or am I seeing this potential because I'm I'm a remnant chosen? I am apostolic and prophetic. Okay, so I have those mantles. I'm a seeker. So I see things in people. So we have to discern. But when I'm telling you everything failed for me, everything failed. Okay. I ended up, so I had a very good job back in Destin. And I found another similar job in Tampa, making more, signed on to some contracts. I'm just led to speak this really quick. And was going to double, if not triple, the income that I was making back in Destin. And when I'm telling you, May, everything failed. The job fell through. They said they weren't opening up and everything failed for me. So from being able to help other people pay my bills, pick up and travel every other weekend to Tampa, because I was meeting business owners and doing my poetry, to not being able to do nothing, to have to go from being able to pay your own bills to now in a shelter. But even that shelter, the first shelter that I went to back in Fort Walton Beach, that was an assignment. And I still bless the Lord for that. And so let me just go back. So like I said, I was just led to speak that, but I want to go back to my little thing here, my little cues, okay? Because this is a teaching matter for many people. So when I say no more potential, only covenant, I don't want people to think that potential is a bad thing, because it's not. Because many people see potential in us, okay? In fact, every single one of us has potential. Like I still have potential in areas. There are still areas within me and you guys as well that God is trying to bring to our attention. So oftentimes when we don't recognize it, he'll bring somebody to say, "Man, you got potential in that area." You know? But I always say, still take that back to the Father. Potential simply means the possibility of becoming something. It is untapped ability. It is unrealized capacity. It is what could happen if the right conditions are present. It is what can happen if the right conditions are present. And so, even in potential, sometimes God calls us to potential with people in situations, because we belong to him and it is his covenant. And once we align to that individual, that business strategy, whatever the case, then guess what? Then covenant becomes possible. So potential is the seed, potential is the blueprint, potential is the vision. Habakkuk 2:2-3. Read that. Potential is what God placed inside of us before we were ever formed in our mother's womb. The potential is not problem. The problem is not potential. Let me say it like that. And I had to put that in there, right, right here. Potential is what God placed inside of us before we were ever formed in our mother's womb. Why I say that? Because I have seen so many people walk around with potential. I have seen family members. I have seen friends. I have seen so many people. Even my own father, and God bless his soul, but my father passed at 55 years old. My father was very talented, very smart, worked in the plants. He was very musically inclined, taught himself, okay, keyboardist, sing, like we all, the whole side of the Fife family sings, instruments, whatever, rap, whatever. Very, very talented people. And so I seen my father really move in areas, but not move as he was really supposed to, but he wasn't cultivated in really what he was called to do. And my father set in potential in certain areas of his life. If he just would have had the right people around him to help him, and him even drawing nigh to the Trinity like he should have, my father would have surpassed potential and moved into covenant. And when my father passed, I could remember saying in the bed, like, I love my father, but I can't be like my father, though I have many of his aspects. I look like my father. I look like my mom too, but I look like my father. Um, but there was a lot of stuff that my dad didn't move into because, again, he didn't have that relationship with the father. He didn't have the right people around him and things of the such. And that's why I always pray for my tribe. um and really try to help people to recognize what's within them, and things of the such. So yes, so there's many of people. I mean, I've seen many of people pass, and I'm like, man, or get older in their 60s and 70s, and I'm like, they have so much potential. And that's why we have to get up every day and be intentional in God and do what He called us to do. Don't sit on what God placed inside of you because of your current circumstances or past circumstances. Because if you do it, guess what? Then you won't be able to move in what God called you to do. Okay. So The problem is not potential. The problem is when we confuse potential with promise. The problem is when we confuse potential with assignment. And the problem is when we confuse potential with covenant. Because many of us have stayed in places, relationships, jobs, ministries, and environments because of what we thought something could become. Because of that feeling that we got at the beginning because we connected to them. And sometimes, and I'll talk about emotions at the end. Sometimes it's just like, and I hate to use it in this connotation, but I am. When somebody gets addicted to something, drugs or alcohol or whatever the case, like that initial euphoria you get the first time. That's what keeps drawing you back to something because you're constantly looking for that same feeling and all those emotions and all that woo that you got when you first connected, okay? And so that's why sometimes we stay in things that we are not supposed to stay in because we're looking for that feeling that that we first got when we first connected to it. I've done that many as a times. We've looked at relationships and said, I see potential. We looked at friendships and said, I see potential. We looked at business opportunities and said, I see potential. We've looked at ministry connections and said the same thing. But what happens when years go by and the potential never becomes reality? I want to ask y'all that. Because some people will sit in relationships and sit in things. And I'm like, no, I have too. And that's why now I always say time waits for no one. We're on God's timing, but but the timing of God, you know what I'm saying? We we have to obey the timing of God when it comes to things. But now I'm be like, no, I have wasted so much time. And I refuse. Like, if I see something in an individual or something in a situation and I bring it back to God, but a lot of times God's already speaking to me right then and there. That's why he's allowing me to see it. Then y'all know my phrase. I got to run, Forrest, run, because I have sat in stuff where God has showed me so many red flags of stuff, and I've sat in it thinking that because of what I carry and the love that I carry, I can help something or get something to turn, and it don't. It actually gets worse. It got worse. Okay, to where then I had to suffer through things. I had to suffer through a lot of hurt, heartache, and pain. I had to suffer through mental anguish. Many people, especially remnant chosen, sometimes get scared to even release what type of mental anguish that they go through. And oftentimes, if we're not connected to God in the way that we should be connected to, those things will potentially become depression and PTSD and other mental health things that will then therefore start to surface mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, naturally within our bodies. We get sick. We get sick. But that's why we have to have a community to help and not be afraid of what we're hearing, what we're seeing, what we've been through. And see, and I'm one of those, I'm not afraid to tell people what I've had to endure in life. Okay. I'm not. Because you know what? God allow me to, once I let him in, see what it is so that I can help others. Okay. Many of you guys are the same way too. So what happens when the thing that has the possibility to grow, but it never bears fruit? A lot of times when we're around something that does not bear fruit and we stay in it, guess what? We stop bearing fruit. Because again, God's not going to allow us to move in the things that he has for us if we're attached to something that is not bearing fruit. What happens when you're constantly investing into something that God never assigned to you in the first place? You start to get drained. and the things that were built, okay, because this what happened to me over the years. I found myself always connecting to people, whether it was a friend or a man. And I because I am a person that pushes people, okay. I am a kingdom pusher. Like, I will push you to your destiny, but to ultimately draw nigh to the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. But I have invested in people, places, things, and situations, spiritually and financially, and then ended up drained myself and not having what I needed to simply just live. And that's not a good place to be in for no one. So that's where discernment comes in, because potential asks, what could this become? But covenant asks, potential asks, what could this become? But covenant asks, what has God ordained? Potential focuses on possibility. Covenant focuses on alignment. And y'all, if I'm telling y'all, listen to this. Take heed. Take heed to what the Spirit of the Lord is having me teach, but also speak in what I've gone through. Because I never asked myself these things when I was going through certain things, like, or before I entered into a business a partnership or a relationship or anything like that. So potential focuses on possibility, covenant focus on alignment. And see, at this point in my life, I tell people all day, I am covenant, and I know the purpose, destiny that God has called me to. And if you don't align to it, I I'm not going to even, get myself inclined and locked in there with you anymore. No hard feelings, but I know what I've gone through, and I know who I am in God. That's another thing. Many of the times, many individuals don't know who they are in God. They don't love God. They don't love themselves. So therefore, they continue to stay in things and situations that are not of God. And you got to love God, and you got to love yourself. That right there will open you up to see what you're supposed to be connected to. And oftentimes, some of the people that we connect to, the reason why they are how they are is because they don't know God like they should. They don't love themselves. They have insecurities. They've gone through too. So see, it's just like two people connecting in what they call maybe trauma bonding in a certain aspect. And that's an absolute no. And we will have an episode on trauma bonding, okay? Um, so covenant focuses on alignment, potential focuses on what we see. Covenant focuses on what God sees. We want to see what God sees, okay? Potential says maybe. Covenant says this is established. And many of us have spent years building our lives around potential. I did. I saw the best in people. I saw what they could become. I saw their gifts. I saw their purpose. I saw their future, you know. But I had to learn that just because I could see someone's future did not mean I was assigned to participate in it. Okay. And so I'm kind of just filtering through here. Covenant is not based on feelings. See, we always use that feeling in any emotion aspect. And again, I'm gonna touch on it before I leave up out of here today. Covenant is not based on convenience. Covenant is not based on chemistry. Okay. I'm gonna tell y'all that because I know I have moved off of chemistry so much, like, oh, because I had that feeling, like, oh yeah, this gotta be it. This gotta be the one. Oh, and that aspect of feeling butterflies within the stomach, no, I'm I'm about to turn y'all all the way around on that. Feeling butterflies in the stomach is not a good sign. Okay. I don't care what nobody says about butterflies, because I had to recognize it myself with certain men. Okay, because I'm about to get on the topic real quick of the relationships I've been on. I would always get these butterflies. Oh yeah, he got to be it. Man, that was a warning, girl. If you don't get up out of there. So butterflies in the stomach is not a confirmation of something good. You got to use your spirit, your spirit, your spirit. And I've talked about this before in my ministry avenues, because even when we look at something from a heartfelt way, you know, our hearts are still deceitful. Like our hearts will even have us thinking that, yeah, that's it. But that's why we have to take things from a spiritual standpoint. Sometimes how you know it is for you is because it aligns. It aligns, and peace and clarity comes from it. God's peace and clarity. Not all this robust of feelings and, oh yeah. No. I have gone there. I've been there and I've done that. And that's why I've gotten myself in some very bad relationships that actually end up, like I said, causing me so much trauma and pain and abuse. Okay. So I just had to put that there. I had to put that there. All right. So, okay, with them butterflies, y'all. Oh, I get them butterflies. Uh-huh. Covenant is not based on convenience. Covenant is not based on chemistry. Covenant is not based on emotional attachment. Covenant is built upon divine agreement. Divine agreement. Okay? Because, even when I look at the marriage factor now, okay? God has in mind who he wants you to be with, in the terms of an individual where you guys come into covenant, because covenant is a responsibility and a willingness. Okay, even when it comes to love, and that's a whole nother topic. Love is not just this robust of emotions. Love is a responsibility to say, I am gonna get up and I'm gonna love this person through everything. E- Even what the type of love that God has for us, it's agape, it's unconditional love. Like he loves us despite us getting up, falling short every day. He loves us despite of what we did when we was in the world. Okay. So love is not based off of all this feeling of emotion. Okay. And again, we will have an episode on love. So covenant is built on divine agreement. It is established by God. When something is covenant, there is alignment, there is peace, there is fruit, there is purpose, and there is confirmation. And even when challenges come out, just for saying it, the foundation still remains. See, and that's another thing. If you and or that individual doesn't have a foundation and I'm gonna say in the Trinity, guess what? It's gonna fall. If you have a foundation, but that other person doesn't have a foundation, guess what? It's still gonna fall, because that person is unstable. That person does not have the spiritual capacity as you to understand things from a spiritual standpoint. And that's just not just with a husband, a boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife. That's any type of relationship. This is really all of that. So think about it from a natural perspective. Many people enter relationships because of potential. They see who someone might become, but a relationship cannot survive on potential alone. Potential does not pay bills. Potential does not build trust. Potential does not create emotional maturity. That's another thing. It- when it comes to potential, if a person does not have emotional maturity, they are immature. Guess what? No. Potential does not produce character. Potential only tells you what might happen. Yeah. That and I can go into that. Potential only tells you what might happen. Many people get prophecy, okay? And when I look at prophecy, especially over the years of the type of prophecy that I have received. Some of that stuff never manifested forward. And there's many reasons why. I mean, because the individual that was speaking was not really speaking from the heart of God. They did not know how to interpret correctly. Many people were trying to lead astray. I mean, there's so much, but also prophecy, yes, it still is what could happen because you have to be in alignment with God in order for that prophecy to spring forth. If you're not doing what God is calling you to do, and if you are not taking the steps for that prophecy to manifest forth, guess what? It's gonna sit there. Okay, so many people who be ear hustling for prophecy, yes, you could get it all day. You could get it all day, but there's certain things that you still have to do. There still is that responsibility and that covenant that you got to take on for those things to spring forth. I just had to speak that because somebody need to hear that while I'm going forth on potential. Okay. Character tells you what is happening. Fruit tells you what is happening. Alignment tells you what is happening. Now, let's look at this spiritually. Sometimes we become frustrated with God because something didn't work out. The relationship didn't work out. The job didn't work out. The move didn't work out. The business partnership didn't work out. The ministry connection didn't work out. The opportunities didn't work out. And we're asking God why. But sometimes God is saying it had potential, but it wasn't covenant. And truth be told, people can take on their own will. It's not that God didn't maybe want certain things to happen, but if that person is not taking on the things of God, then guess what? It's not going to happen because God is not going to allow his children, whether you are a man or a woman, to sit in something that is not of him, period. And I had to learn that the hard way too. So if it had potential, but it wasn't covenant. It had possibility, but it wasn't alignment. They took their own will on. It looked good, but it wasn't a sign. That happens to a lot of us. That's why I had to, when it come to every aspect of my life, though I'm looking up, but the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit abides in us and we abide in him. God is within us. The kingdom of God is within us. Okay. But I had to be like Abba, because I call him Abba. I call him Daddy God. Like, is this what you have for me now? Because if not, take it away sooner than later. Let me see so I can slide to the left and crisscross right on up out of there because I'm not gonna do it anymore. Because see, I want what God has for me. I want to be able to fulfill what he's called me to do in this earthly realm. Okay, because again, I have wasted so much time. I have wasted time when it has come to very vital things because I was distracted into things I shouldn't have been. All right. So, and that's the hard lesson because many times we mourn potential. Stop mourning potential. I don't anymore. That's why we have to do a Proverbs 4:20. Guard our hearts because from with everything flows from it. Guard our heart. It does not mean put a wall off to people. It means give your heart, give your spirit, give your everything to God and let him guide the things in your life, the relationships and partnerships and all that. Let him do it. Because if you don't, you will continue to seek potential instead of covenant. Period. We grieve what could have been. We cry over what could have happened. We replay what might have happened. And I'm telling you, the last person that I thought I was going to be with, and he may end up watching this, I grieved over what could have been. I didn't cry, thank God, because I was out of the crying mode because I had been through too much with men. But I grieve what it could have been, potential. because I know what I was seeing in the spirit. And then it was being prophesied too. And again, that's why I say you have to be careful when people come to you and they confirm things that even you may be seeing, because sometimes are they really confirming it from the view and standpoint of God, or are they just confirming it because of what you're seeing? And I have had a lot of people do that with me, and it was never something that God called forth anyway. But you know what? I don't cry over spilled milk anymore. I know that if God removes something out of my life now, he's seen something even deeper that I didn't, and he knew it was not going to work. And I'm okay with that. I am okay with it because I just want what God has for me. Because I know who I am and I know what I have to give. Okay. But God is not asking us to build our lives around possibilities. He's asking us to build our lives around his purpose. Around his purpose. That's why Romans 8:28 says, all things work together for the good of those who love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. Notice it says purpose, not potential. Purpose, purpose, purpose. So ask, is this a purpose partnership? Is this a purpose ministry connection? Is this a purpose relationship? Is this relationship going to lead to marriage? Okay. We have to ask ourselves these things in this season. And when we begin to understand that, you stop chasing people, places, things, and situations. See, I don't chase anymore. And now I'm about to put this out there. See, because a lot of religious people, when they hear people talk about energy and vibrations, our God is a huge energy source. He is a huge vibrational source. The kingdom of God, all this is moved off of energy and vibrations. And so therefore, if our energy and vibrations is built up in God, built up in his word and his prayer, guess what? We gonna stop chasing anyway. It's like that discernment's gonna open us up and we gonna be like, And truth be told, things are gonna locate us, not us seeking for something, but it's going to locate us because we're aligned, okay, to the things of God. And when we're aligned on the journey to the things of God, then guess what? Everything else has no choice but to attach. All right. So stop forcing doors open. Stop forcing, like if you're even with relationships, if you're forcing and feel like you got to show an individual, oh, I love you, and you're constantly putting yourself out there, but they giving you minimum, guess what? No, that's not it for you. You need to leave it alone. And I say this, but many people still gonna do it anyway. You're still gonna chase and you're still gonna put yourself out there to an individual that is not spiritually mature and not ready for you, and or it's not even called to you. We got to stop doing that. See, because I used to do that because I thought that, I got a tattoo that say love conquers all. Love do conquer all. It do when it's the love of God, and when a person is ready to surrender to God and give themselves to God, get the healing, get the deliverance, be set free. But if they not, guess what? It don't matter how much love you give them, how much money you give them, how many kids you give them, what you doing for them. They are going to use you up and you're going to be sitting there dry and they going to move on to the next. So no more potential. So stop trying to rescue everyone. Stop trying to convince people to value you. Stop trying to make something fit that God never designed to fit. And you begin asking different questions. Instead of asking, does this have potential? You start, Father, Abba, is this covenant? And the question alone can save you years of unnecessary pain. Believe me. Hoo-hoo. Now, I do have more, and I'm gonna try to condense this because we already at 53 minutes. But what I want y'all to do, I want y'all to look at this from beginning to end. If you got to break it up, because when I sit here and most of y'all know, back in my real heavy ministry days, I would be on the live for hours. hours and hours and hours. And and then I would tell, hey, y'all, break it up. You know what I'm saying? Break it up, because if God has me teaching, but then also telling parts of what I've been through, it, somebody needs to hear this, because again, I even got fought to do this today. I just was telling my 20-year-old son, I'm like, I got fought to put this on, so I had to go another avenue. That's why I am late putting this on. This was supposed to be live today, live, and it's not, because I could not get in to put it in. So now I'm sitting here and I'm recording it. All right, but the things of God is going to always spring forth in me, because I see things from a spiritual standpoint, and I know somebody needed to hear this. So now let's make this very clear. Potential is not the enemy, and not every person with potential should be avoided. In fact, some of the greatest covenant relationships, friendships, ministries, businesses, and even marriages begin as potential. Every covenant starts somewhere, every purpose starts somewhere, every calling starts somewhere. And even we started as potential, because we walked into purpose. Before we walked into purpose, we were potential. I was potential. I've been I've had I've been able to see and everything when I was in the world. Okay. I could discern things. I could tell people things. I was dreaming and seeing things as a little girl. Okay. But I can remember the day that God came to me and was like, daughter, I need you to come out of those things of the world, and I need you to come in to me like never before, because he was like, I want to use you in a new way. So he was taking my potential and moving it into covenant. And don't get me wrong, I'm here today, and I'm not perfect. I fall short every day. I do. I do. But God knows that I love him. God knows my heart. God knows that I still take everything to him. I am covenant. Okay. I am his daughter. And that's for many of you guys. He's not looking for perfection, but he's looking to somebody that's willing to get up every day and move forth in the things of him, pray to him, seek him while he may be found, all of that. And I'm just even speaking to some people on that today, because many times you feel ashamed because of things that you've done, or maybe you're still doing, but God is like, just come to me. Come to me. Let me shape you and reveal you, on that potter's wheel. So yes. So before we walked in purpose, we were potential. Before we walked in maturity, we were potential. Before we became who God called us to be, we were potential. So the issue is not whether potential exists. The issue is discernment. The issue is assignment. The issue is knowing whether God has called you to participate in the development of that potential. Because one of the mistakes many of us make is this: we see potential and immediately assume responsibility. That was me. That's why I always carry so much, even in the natural. I will always be so tensed and neck hard and shoulders, because I was carrying so much responsibility, not just of mine, but others. And now I'm like, no, I won't do that anymore. We see a gift and assume we're supposed to mentor it. We see a wounded person and assume we're supposed to heal them. We see a struggling person and assume we're supposed to rescue them. We see someone with purpose and assume we're supposed to help them walk it out. And sometimes God never gave us that assignment. That's where many people become exhausted. You become wounded yourself. And that's where many people become drained. If you become wounded, exhausted, and drained, believe me, it is not your assignment, because they accepted responsibility for something God never assigned to them. I used to do it all the time. Now I don't. But God had to teach me. And now I'm here to teach you today through teaching, but also what I've had to go through. I've taken on a lot of people, in the ministry, and relationships in general, that I was not supposed to take on. Really, I was supposed to be an individual there to guide them to the Father, give them prayers, things like that. But I took it on from a standpoint that I never should have. I've taken on men that I was just supposed to pray for or guide to God, and I took them on and end up in a relationship with them, and then I ended up taking on abuse or heartache, pain, trauma, all of that, and that that really, caused a lot over the years for me. But it's God that kept me, and that's why I don't look my age, and I don't look like what I've been through, because it was only God, it was only Yeshua that brought me through, for real. And that's for many of you guys. Let me see here, just trying to sort through this. Just because you can see someone's potential does not mean you are responsible for their growth. Just because you can discern someone's calling does not mean you are assigned to cultivate it. Just because you can identify someone's gift does not mean you are called to develop them. There is a difference between discernment and assignments, and many of us have confused the two. Discernment allows you to see, assignment gives you permission to participate. Discernment allows you to see. Assignment gives you permission to participate. I need to say that again. And if God has not assigned you, you can spend years pouring into someone who was never your responsibility. So how do you know? How do you know whether you're supposed to help someone move from potential to covenant? You pray, you seek God, you ask questions. Father, this is my assignment. Father, am I supposed to invest here? Father, am I supposed to mentor this person? Father, am I supposed to build with this person? Father, am I supposed to partner with this person? Father, am I supposed to stay connected to this person in this season? And then we wait for his answer, because sometimes his answer is yes. Sometimes God will absolutely assign you to help someone grow. Sometimes God will absolutely assign you to mentor, disciple, encourage, build, support, and strengthen someone. But when he does, there will be fruit. That's the sign. There will be fruit. There will be grace for the assignment. You won't get drained and exhausted, and like your emotions won't be all over the place. There will be confirmation concerning the assignment. There will be boundaries around the assignment, because even kingdom assignments require wisdom. That's another thing. Ask God for wisdom. He will give you wisdom freely. God wants to cultivate you in his word. We are his word. Okay? He will give you wisdom. Many of us have confused helping with carrying. We have confused supporting with rescuing. We have confused assignment with codependency. And those are not the same thing. A true kingdom assignment will not require you to lose yourself. It will not require you to abandon your purpose. It will not require you to constantly violate your boundaries. It will not require you to carry someone who refuses to carry themselves. A kingdom assignment produces fruit. A kingdom assignment produces growth. A kingdom assignment produces maturity. And eventually you will see the evidence that God is moving. So before you commit to a person, a partnership, a friendship, a ministry connection, a business opportunity, or even a relationship, ask yourself, can I see potential? Or has God actually assigned me? Because those are two completely different questions. And one answer can save you years of unnecessary pain. I'm going to keep saying that. Now, this is my last thing for tonight. Now let's talk about something else that could cloud our discernment: emotions and chemistry. This always got me, because if we're honest, this is where many of us get into trouble. Not because we're bad people, not because we're trying to make poor decisions, but because emotions are powerful. God created emotions. God has emotions. We are created in his image. So emotions are not the enemy. Emotions help us experience joy. They help us experience compassion. They help us experience love. They help us connect with people. They help us celebrate. They help us grieve. They help us process life. The problem is not emotions. The problem is when emotions become our compassion instead of our discernment, instead of seeking God, asking God about it. Because emotions are real, because emotions are not always accurate. Feelings are real, but feelings are not always truth. Okay? They're not always truth, because that's why I ended up in some of the worst relationships, because again, I got that euphoria at the beginning, and ended up in a relationship and that individual unmasked themselves, and or things just didn't work out, and it caused me more hurt than pain, so um well, it caused me hurt and pain, I should say. um yeah, but I learned from it, and now I was telling my mom the other day, I said, if I have not learned from the last person I thought and the people before that, I will never learn. But I've learned. I'm very careful now. Very, very careful. So let's see here. Because feelings are not always truth. And many of us have interrelationships, partnerships, friendship, ministry connections, and opportunities because of how something made us feel. I was talking about that earlier. We felt seen, we felt understood, we felt excited, we felt inspired, we felt connected, we felt chemistry. And because the feeling was so strong, we automatically assumed the connection was covenant. But chemistry and covenant are not the same thing. Chemistry creates attraction, covenant creates alignment. Chemistry can happen instantly. Covenant is revealed over time. Chemistry can be emotional. Covenant is foundational. Chemistry says, I feel connected. Covenant says, I am aligned. And sometimes the strongest feelings are attached to the greatest lessons. Not because God is trying to hurt us, but because He is teaching us discernment. And that's one thing. Some of us had to go through what we had to go through because God was teaching us discernment. And God was drawing us to Him, period. I've learned that whenever something creates a strong emotional response in me, whether positive or negative, I need to slow down, not speed up. I need to sit with it. I need to pray through it. I need to evaluate it. I need to bring it before God. Because emotions can create a sense of urgency that wisdom can never create. Have you ever met someone and immediately thought, this is it? This is my person. This is my opportunity. This is my next step. This is my answer. And then 6 months later realized it wasn't? Who have? Me. A lot. The feeling was real, but the interpretation was wrong. And that's where many of us miss it. We assume every emotional response is confirmation, but sometimes emotions is simply information. They are showing us something, revealing something, highlighting something, but they are not always directing us towards something. That's why we must learn to sit with our emotions long enough for discernment to catch up. Because discernment asks questions, emotions never ask. Discernment asks, why am I attracted to this? Why does this feel familiar? What is this connection triggering inside of me? Is this peace? Or is this excitement? Is this confirmation? Or is this desire? Is this covenant? Or is this potential? Because not everything that feels good is God. It's not. And not everything that feels uncomfortable is wrong. Sometimes covenant doesn't create fireworks. Sometimes covenant creates peace. And that's what I was saying. That's when you know something. I have learned to seek God. First of all, we are to seek God in everything that we're involved in, and with people. But also, I seek God's peace in it. If there's no peace, then I got to go. Sometimes covenant creates consistency, covenant creates stability, and sometimes covenant creates clarity. And if you spent your life operating from chaos, trauma, rejection, abandonment, or instability, peace can actually feel unfamiliar. And I had to put that there because I was so used to operating in chaos, trauma, rejection, abandonment, or instability. Now that I'm seeking God's peace, then I'll be like, God, I'm looking like, is this you now? Like, because it's too peaceful. It's peaceful. That's why we need God. That's why we need prayer. That's why we need discernment, because discernment helps us separate what we feel from what is true. And when emotions, wisdom, discernment, and God's direction begins to align, that's when we move forward confidentially. Or, yeah, uh, whew, confident. Not because we're being driven by feelings, but because we're being led by truth. And truth, that changes everything. We want truth in the matter. We want truth in the matter. And so that was what I wanted to start this off with this time. Unfiltered stories from Dr. K. And so I really pray that this helps someone. Um I needed to start it here, but deep calls into deep. And so um I will be back on probably within the next couple weeks, but I'm bringing somebody aboard, and when I get them, when put it this way, when I talk with them, then I will get the flyer out, and I'm really gonna want you to tune in to this session that we will have, because when me and this woman of God get together, it gets deep. And yes, so I want y'all to tune in. And like I said, I'll be bringing people aboard, but it'll be sessions where I'll just sit up here and I will just talk about what I've been through, because I want to help. God always showed me that transparency in this walk, this journey, that He's called me to help people. Kingdom Global Initiative, is what He wanted me to do. So no more potential, men and women of God, only covenant. And so I'm gonna put myself out there. I am a life coach. I do spiritual counseling. I counsel people, I mentor people. And so, I am here to help people. So if you need more clarity on you and the relationships you're in and things like that, if you need prayers even pertaining to this, you got to reach out to me. Okay, you got to reach out to me, and I'm gonna give my link tree. And on my link tree has my pages as well. So I'm on Instagram under DRK underscore productions with a K. I'm on TikTok under, I think, Ambassador K. I'm on Facebook, Kendra Fife. But I have, pages. So I have my ministry website, and I say that, but I have moved out of ministry. Okay, and that's a whole nother story. I do the works of God, but I do them from a kingdom aspect, not from a religious aspect. So that's why I am Kingdom Initiative. Kingdom Global Initiative is what God has called me to help people understand kingdom. Okay, nothing more. Nothing more. I'm not here to draw people to me. I'm here to help people. I'm here to draw them to the Father. And so, yeah, so if you want, prayers or anything like that, or you need mentor, you need guidance, go to my link tree. It even has my health and wellness. My health and wellness is wellness connections, integrated health. So like I said, I'm a nurse practitioner, but I help people. I do integrative medicine. So this is me all in a nutshell. I'm a business consultant. I'm helping people across the board. And so my link tree, of course, it's linktr.ee/Kingdom Initiative. That's what it is. And so you can definitely reach out to me, even up under this here, because this will be on YouTube. You can say, hey, I need help, I need guidance. You can reach out to me that way, then we can connect via YouTube. So this will be on YouTube. This is where the podcast is at. And then the audio part will be on Spotify, but you can reach out to me. So, yep. Linktree, linktr.ee/Kingdom Initiative. And so I'm Dr. K, and I'm signing out. The music at the beginning, as well as the music signing us out, is my music. My music. I also do prophetic poetry. So go subscribe to the Prophetic Lounge on YouTube. I have been headliners and gone places to do my poetry. I sit here and do poetry and release it. And I'm actually hosting On June 17th, 2 days before Juneteenth, a Juneteenth event in St. Petersburg at JQ's. And when I tell you the poetry that I'm about to put out for that, it hit his fire. And if you guys are in the Florida area, St. Petersburg, Tampa, surrounding areas, I want you to come on out and I want you to participate. If not, my 20-year-old is going to come and he's going to record it, and it's going to be on the Prophetic Lounge page. So I want y'all to come on through. All right, now, peace, love, light, and blessings. Until next time, again, I will put the flyer out. Unfiltered Stories from Dr. K will go live twice a month, so every 2 weeks. So you can hear stories from not just myself, but others as well. So you guys be blessed and you stay encouraged. Signing out.
Yeah. Welcome to the real unfiltered, unfiltered stories. Yeah.
And of course, my thing came off and I'm just trying to get my music on and it want to act up right now.
Victory, unfiltered stories come right with me. Right with me. I don't sugarcoat it, I just tell the truth. Every scar, every lesson, every hidden proof. Had to lose, had to fall just to rise again. Now I speak from a place where I've already been. See the world try to shape me, break me down. But I found my voice when I lost that sound. Now I walk in purpose, I move in light. And I say what I feel, I don't dim my sight. This ain't surface. This that deep, this that true. Most people keep what I live. I now release so somebody else can breathe. Unfiltered stories, yeah. This is me. No mask, no filter, just honesty. Real life, real pain, real victory. Unfiltered stories come right with me. This is where truth lives. Right with me. This is where healing begins. This is unfiltered story.
Yes.
With Dr. K. Unfiltered. No filter. Just truth.